In October of 1969, Led Zeppelin put out Led Zeppelin II. And about a month later, a newspaper article was put out where somebody had interviewed Jimmy Page, and basically he went through track by track and just commented on what the album was all about. And I have this article here, and if you're a Led Zeppelin fan, this will be the coolest thing you hear today. It's so interesting because Jimmy Page literally just went through track by track and just made little comments. So I'm going to read this article to you. The one I'm reading is from the Ottawa Journal, November 21st, 1969. So this was roughly, because the Led Zeppelin II was put out October 22nd. So this was basically a month later when this was published. And it's so fascinating listening to Jimmy Page and his little commentary on what, as he's explaining this album, what the tracks, what this entails. So I think you'll really enjoy this article. It's not very long. Getting to see Jimmy Page, the quiet and hero-worshipped guitarist with Led Zeppelin during one of the group's concerts, is about as difficult as persuading John Wayne that anything is wrong with U.S. policy in Vietnam. In New York a few days ago, I had to batter my way backstage through a swarm of both male and female admirers strung around the stage door and the stairs leading to the dressing rooms at Carnegie Hall. When I finally reached the door marked Led Zeppelin, I found that the dressing room was almost as crowded as the hall itself, tickets for which had been sold out weeks before. Page was sitting in a corner trying to tune his guitar while a mass of young ladies looked on adoringly. It was the start of the Zepp's fourth North American tour within a year, and it was fairly obvious that the group has become the most popular English band working these parts outside of the Stones. Led Zeppelin's first album has sold 780,000 copies and is still in the top 20. Led Zeppelin II, just released, racked up an advance order of more than 500,000 copies, meaning an instant gold record. Members of the New York crowd have said that Led Zeppelin II is the best white blues album ever made. Few would disagree that it's the heaviest rock album around at the moment, brimming with disciplined, scrolling up to the top, excitement and hard-hitting punch. After the group's second sold-out show at Carnegie Hall, Page agreed to review the album track by track. Whole Lotta Lovin', it says Whole Lotta Lovin', I know it's Whole Lotta Love, but that's what it says in the article. Whole Lotta Lovin' is a basic, and by the way, these are Jimmy Page quotes, okay? We're talking about each track. Is a basic rock thing, using some electronic sounds in the middle. It sounds great on headphones. It reminds me of a sort of Rolling Stones feel. What is and what should never be represents a change for us. We wanted to try some new ideas on the second album, and this was one of the first things we came up with. We put a lot of thought into it, and I like it a lot. The Lemon song is the most basic blues thing on the album. We cut it live in the studio with just a guitar overdub on the bridge. Thank You is another favorite of mine. It's one we wanted to eventually do on stage once we get it down properly. There was only a little bit of overdubbing on the track. Heartbreaker has become a sort of workout number on stage. We're getting more into it now. It's really only a riff number, a collection of riffs. Robert Plant wrote the words. Living Loving Maid is again a basic sort of rock number built around a riff. It's about a degenerate old woman trying desperately to be young. By the way, that's pretty interesting. Those two different songs. Have you ever, listening to the radio, have you ever heard a radio station not play both songs back to back? Because of course the one ends, and in less than a second, one with a purple, Living Loving Maid starts. I don't think I've ever heard the radio station ever not play both songs together. Anyway, Ramble On is a nice track. At the moment, we're not doing it on stage because there was a lot of overdubbing. It's very hard to do on stage. The acoustic guitar over the electric. It's Robert's favorite song on the album. That's pretty interesting because that song does have a lot going on. And the drums in that are really cool too. Moby Dick is a drum solo written to feature John Bonham. Bring It On Home has a good feeling to it. The first part is dedicated to Sonny Boy Williamson. Man, Bring It On Home. Is that a great tune? You know, the slow thing and then I still remember the first time I heard that. It was like, oh my gosh, this is the coolest thing. This album is so interesting. Okay, so let's see. I think now. Let's see. I think my favorite tracks are Thank You, What Is, Ramble On, and Whole Lotta Love. Some of the things are a departure from what we've done before. We're not using violin on this album, but I think you'll find each of the tracks has something to say for itself. It wasn't easy to get the album together because there were so many things which we could have done. The trouble was deciding what to use. The album took about 6 months to complete. I actually didn't know that. That's news to me. Album 6 months they took to record Led Zeppelin II. For their fourth tour, the group has dropped one song, You Shook Me, from its repertoire and added 4 cuts from the second album, Heartbreaker, What Is, Moby Dick, and Bring It On Home. Quote, it was hard to know what to drop. I mean, we couldn't take out Dazed and Confused or anything like that, so now our show runs for about 2 hours. Unquote. Led Zeppelin gives its audiences their money's worth, which is probably why the group has played to sold-out concerts on every gig in its last 2 years. Along the way, its one-night price has escalated from $1,500 to $15,000 plus a hefty percentage of the gate. Page thinks the group rode to fame with good timing. Quote, Cream had finished concerts and Hendrix was getting bad critical reaction to his appearances, and we were just lucky to be there at the time. Since then, it has all snowballed. I guess we presented the right thing at the right time to the right people. The group is, unquote, the group is now working out ideas for the third album. Quote, it's going to be more of a challenge because it must be better than both the first and second. We've already got some songs written and we want to cut a single soon. I don't like releasing tracks from albums as singles. They are not related scenes. That's actually pretty interesting that Led Zeppelin really was album rock. They didn't put out singles. The one difference, though, with Led Zeppelin III, those of you that are Led Zeppelin fans will know all about this, is that they put out Hey, Hey, What Can I Do as a single, and it came out at that same time. It was never on an album, but it was at the Led Zeppelin III period. So, and I actually have a copy of that single. I think it was the B-side of Immigrant Song, if I remember that correctly. Anyway, that's pretty interesting, though. And I'm actually curious now as I read this, how many of you, because he's sitting here, this is Jimmy Page saying we have 1 and 2, and we're trying to figure out what to do with 3, but it's got to be better than 1 and 2. How many of you actually think that 3 was better, or maybe even simply just it was succeeded just because it was so different? Anyway, I'd be curious to hear your feedback on that. Considering Led Zeppelin's following, Page is being modest when he sums up, quote, I don't really know what to say about the second album. Our reaction to the initial tracks was very favorable, but since then, we've heard them so many times that we've come to know them backwards. It's hard to be objectively critical now. All right, that's the end of that article. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that stuff. I actually find that super fascinating listening to this old stuff. And especially, what did Jimmy Page, what was he saying about this record after it was released? And I'd love to get your feedback. So, of course, follow the channel, like the video. You probably, if you liked this, you probably know other people that like Led Zeppelin. You probably know other Led Zeppelin fans who would love this video. Please send it on to them. And of course, leave your comments, feedback. What did you think of Led Zeppelin II? To me, that's one of the best things they ever put out, if not the best. I don't know. I go back and forth on these things. But what did you think about Led Zeppelin II? What was your favorite track on there? Were you able to listen to these things and think of it as a track thing? Or did you do what a lot of us did back then? Which was, yeah, I loved songs on it, but you could literally get together with people and just put on Led Zeppelin II and just listen to it. Now, I'm younger in that I was barely, matter of fact, I wasn't even a full year old when this article was written. So by the time I became aware of Led Zeppelin, I was a kind of a little bit older, and they were gone by the time I became aware of them. But still, I grew up in a time when you could take an album like this and you could just put it on and just sit with some friends and just listen to it. We used to do that kind of thing. And so did you have an experience like that, especially with an album like this? Hey, thanks for taking the time to watch this video. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. And with that, as always, have a fantastic day.